The 90s, a time of Seinfeld, flannel, and the internet. Of course, the internet was a new thing to most consumers, and if it weren't for the aggressive marketing of one company, the internet may have never grown as quickly as it did. Naturally, this company, being that it was marketing the internet before the internet was everywhere, has to have some really dated-sounding .com bubble-esque name, like America Online. It's a bit more understandable that a cheesy name like America Online was chosen when you realize that the original name of the company was as boring sounding as Control Video Corporation. CVC, founded in 1983 by Bill von Meister, was an idea way ahead of its time. Their product, called GameLine, was an online service for the Atari 2600 that would download games over the phone line, basically a really primitive version of Steam. Considering the technology wasn't really there yet, and the thing was pretty expensive, coming in at about $160 today, not even counting all the little fees for games and posting high scores, GameLine wasn't very successful. With the company near bankruptcy, Jim Kimsey, using what remained of CVC, founded Quantum Computer Services in 1985. Their strategy was pretty much the same as GameLine, but their new service, Quantum Link, along with playing games, allowed users to send emails and instant messages, share files, and even read the news online. Q-Link was originally written for Commodore computers, but not long after, PC Link and Apple Link were released. Apple Link, needing to fit Apple's high-quality standards, had a relatively simple graphical interface compared to other networking systems of the time, which made use of terminal commands. After the two companies left their joint effort, Quantum Link lost the rights to use the Apple brand on their software. Needing a new name, Apple Link became what we know it as today, America Online. The success of the early AOL software on Apple computers eventually led to DOS and Windows releases in the early 90s, with the original Quantum Link service being dropped by 1994. A feature AOL released to the platform in 1993 was access to another network called Usenet. Largely used by university students, it was typical to the members of Usenet to deal with waves of freshmen every September who had just been introduced to the service and didn't know how to act for about a month. Thanks to AOL, Usenet was ensured a steady stream of newbie users, and the headache that they brought with them, in what became known as the Eternal September. With the comparatively user-friendly software AOL provided, it quickly outgrew its competitors, such as Prodigy, Genie, and CompuServe. Part of this success can also be attributed, though, to Apple's real-life spamming of their software. In an effort to get more customers, AOL sent out discs of their software with a few free hours so that people could try the service. That sounds reasonable until you realize these discs were everywhere. Your mailbox, your cereal box, pretty much every magazine. Seriously, at one point about half the discs being produced in the world had an AOL logo printed on them. There was even an effort to collect 1 million AOL discs and dump them outside of AOL headquarters. And as AOL grew even more desperate to get new users, the amount of free time on their service increased, though with a catch. You can use our network free for 1,000 hours, so long as you do so within 45 days. 45 days which happens to be about 1,000 hours. So unless you plan on using the internet near 24/7, you don't even get to use the full promotional time. Despite how annoying the discs were, AOL continued to grow, and by 1996, the company decided to drop the per-hour subscription payment method for their service, and instead provide unlimited access for about $20 a month, something that sounded great for AOL users until so many people tried to join AOL that most users could only get a busy signal whenever they tried to connect, leading to many people terminating their accounts, and a somewhat harsh and at the same time kinda sad Super Bowl ad by CompuServe, especially considering by 1997 AOL would buy CompuServe. By the end of the decade, AOL had nearly 20 million users and was still growing quickly when it merged with Time Warner Inc., forming AOL Time Warner. But soon after, things weren't looking as good as they originally were for AOL. AOL's growth was simply beginning to stall, and by 2002 its user base had peaked around 25 million dial-up users. Not long after, Stephen Case, the then-current CEO, left the company. The amount of users consistently fell, eventually prompting Time Warner to remove AOL from its name as it had been before. A few years later, in 2006, America Online officially changed its name to AOL, and began to transition from an ISP to an online media company. Instead of having to pay for AOL dial-up, so long as users had an internet connection, they could enjoy some of the free features AOL had to offer, like email and AIM through AOL.com, where revenue is made through advertising. One of AOL's last hopes was purchasing Bebo, an up-and-coming social network in 2008, only to see it ultimately fail against Facebook and Twitter. It seemed to be that AOL was nearly dead in 2009 when Tim Armstrong of Google became the CEO. That year, AOL released a new brand identity and continued its focus on online media. Within the following years, the company began to acquire news sources like TechCrunch and the Huffington Post, and even began creating AOL original series, one of which even went on to win an Emmy. With this new direction, the company for the first time after 8 years saw revenue growth. In 2015, still showing growth, AOL was bought by Verizon, who has recently announced plans of acquiring Yahoo to merge with AOL. As a platform, AOL has come a long way. From a failed company trying to network game consoles, to most people's gateway to the internet as we know it, to a media and advertising company. Despite setbacks, AOL has never really died, which is more than can be said for MySpace. It's not uncommon for the first successful implementations of an idea to fail. Just take a look at the Palm Pilot, or Alta Vista, or MySpace. But regardless of which implementation becomes popular, it wouldn't have been possible without the original. With that in mind, the internet as we know it today wouldn't be nearly as popular as it is if AOL hadn't managed to get America online.